Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. I had plans today of what I was going to share. I've been getting some questions about showing off the Thermomix better, some of the stuff that they do, and I was going to spend the afternoon doing a few of the more extravagant cooks in the Thermomix that I don't do very often, like a risotto and custards and things like that to show it off. And then I went looking for containers because I was going to set some jelly to have with custard and things like that. And I got tied up in my Tupperware container, Tupperware cupboard, reorganizing the entire Tupperware cupboard. Now, as I was doing that, I found a whole bunch of lids for my glass containers, which are stored on a different shelf. And so I went to that shelf and I started clearing off that shelf. And it has just spiraled. So I have like 4 different shelves that are empty at the moment because they're all laid out all over my freezers and stuff as I'm sorting containers and stuff to make sure that I'm only keeping the appropriate containers, because our Tupperware cupboard has a tendency to explode all over the top of the house all the time. So I'm trying to get rid of some excess. I found all the lids to my gravy containers. So we use the 1 litre Maggi gravy from Costco. We use that as gravy, but once we finish the gravy container, those 1 litre containers are a really good size for scooping dog food or lamb food or chicken food or whatever else. So we keep those containers for that. But all the lids for the containers were still in my Tupperware cupboard. Now we don't use the lids at all. And there was like a dozen of them. So, you know, we probably only have 4 of those containers that are still left in rotation. But anyway, as you can probably hear, I'm still battling a bit of a lurgy of some sort. It hasn't progressed to anything significant. It's still just a little bit of a uncomfortable throat, not even particularly congested or anything, just feeling crappy. So there's that as well. But I was trying to get a few things done because Mum's coming for the weekend, and Mum's always good motivation for me to get things organised because she sits and directs. And then we chat while I'm doing it, and I'm not very good at sitting still, so we may as well get stuff done while we chat. So the plan was to get some stuff done so that once she was here we could get more stuff done, which is how I ended up sorting out my Tupperware shelves. But what I did discover while I was doing that is a few different things. I also reorganized all my canning shelves the other day because we wanted to put the new freezer in there, so I had to reorganize stuff there. So there's a few things that I've discovered. The significant amount of apple butter that's still on my shelf that we have not used. I mentioned that previously and people gave me some great suggestions for the apple butter, but I think the biggest problem is that our apple butter is in 2 bigger jars. So for baking purposes and things like that, I'd only be using half a jar and then the other half ends up going to waste. So when I can apple butter again for whatever purpose, if I happen to, it's rare, you know, the reason I ended up canning apple butter was because I got 180 kilos of apples. Not going to happen again in a hurry. But if I do, I would do it in the small jars like I do the pureed berries, because that's what I use for like baking the pancake bake and stuff, is those smaller jars of berries. So apple butter would work the same way if it was in that size. However, I still have, I think it's like 10 of the 27s, the Fowler's 27s, which I think are 650 mils each. So I'm going to turn that into apple butter barbecue, but I was going to do that as a whole video, which I will eventually, because I need to do cowboy candy too. But I also discovered while I was clearing off another shelf is that I actually have a dozen or less of the Plum BBQ. So apple butter barbecue and Plum BBQ were our 2 favourite sauces that I would make. Excess fruit, and I'd make those sauces. The Plum BBQ that I made last time though, I didn't let it condense enough before I canned it. So I thought it was thick enough, but it wasn't. So when you open the jars, it's very thin. So I've been using it as more of a saucy dish or a marinated, things like that. It doesn't work as a sauce, and it's not getting used because it's not quite a sauce. So what I need to do is I need to empty all of those jars into a pot and cook them down so that I can re-can it. That shelf that they're on, I'm currently trying to get cleared, because that's where some of that glassware was stored. So I found them all. They're covered in cobwebs because they've been sitting there for 12, 18 months, which is fine. They're canned goods. It's not an issue, except that we just haven't been using them. So they're sitting there. They're dirty. They're covered in cobwebs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull them all down. I'm going to give the jars a quick rinse off so that nothing gets into anything when I pour it into a pot. And I'm going to pour that into a pot to cook down. Now, the taste is fine. It's just the consistency. So all it's going to need is maybe 2 hours of cooking down. It's 2:30 in the afternoon, so I probably won't get time to recan it today. Maybe I'll just pull all the jars. I don't know. or that it can just go straight back into the same jars. We'll see. I think I'm going to do it anyway because I don't want to pull all the jars down and set them somewhere and then not do anything with them. So I think I'm just going to pull them all down and put them into a pot and cook them down. And then we'll see what else we're going to continue on with this video. It's normally I'd have a video out tomorrow. It's Thursday at the moment. Normally I'd have a video out tomorrow morning. But as I said, I didn't get the stuff done that I wanted to get done. So if I don't have enough content for a video, then what I'm going to do is just put one out Saturday morning instead of tomorrow morning. And I actually get a meat delivery tomorrow, so that might work out well. But I just wanted to share that I was trying to get this stuff done because, yeah, let's get the plum barbecue sorted. All right, so it seems that there's less plum barbecue than I expected. So I might do the apple butter barbecue at the same time just to make it worthwhile, because I'm only going to need a small pot for this. So there's only 6 jars of it, but there's still 6 jars that just are not being consumed because it's not quite what we wanted. So you'll be able to see the consistency of it. It's very much a dip maybe, even rather than a proper, like, it's supposed to be like a barbecue sauce. You're supposed to be able to, like, you know, drizzle it over stuff. But it definitely didn't set up. So I'm going to grab a spatula to clean the rest of these out as well. But first I'm just going to get them all in here. And then, I don't think it'll take long to cook it down. See, that one seemed to be thicker than the other ones. It's actually, you know, lining the jar, which is what you expect from a sauce. So I wonder if there's 2 different batches here. That is possible. Those 2 over there still look pretty thin though. Oh. So it's this one. So that one just seems to have been an anomaly. So now obviously I don't want to add water to these jars to tip them out, because I don't want to be adding more water to the sauce. So I'm just going to have to do the best I can with a spatula. But yeah, it's all going to fit in this one smaller pot. So got all that there. I'm going to scrape these out and then we're going to get this on the heat. All right, we've scraped all the jars out as much as we can, and we're just going to stick this on low. I want to bring it up to a simmer and simmer it for, maybe 2 hours. If I can lose, say, 1 inch of height on this, that's probably around about what I need. All right, so I found 10 of my 27s. There is a few pint jars as well up on the shelf, but pint jars being the size they are, I can probably use them for other uses if I don't need them. So I went for these first. Now, I looked up the ratios that I made it last time, and it was 40 cups of apple butter was the base recipe. So each of these jars, we've got 2 cups, just over 2 cups, I would say. So half the recipe maybe might be what I'll do, and call that, so it's pretty much empty. So we'll call that, now I'm pretty sure these are like 650 ml jars, but none of them are full all the way up. So 2 cups is probably about accurate. So I'll probably just call this 2 cups and do a half recipe. A little bit of extra apple butter in there is not going to affect anything. It's actually brings the acidity up. So yeah, I think I'm just going to empty all of these out rather than worrying about trying to measure it all out. Use the spatula, get them all nice and emptied into here, and we'll call it 20 odd cups of apple butter. So let me get that done first. Now, my apple butter isn't necessarily particularly thick either, because what I did when I made it was I just did it in the pressure canner, and it was done purposely to turn into apple butter barbecue. So I wasn't concerned about it being all uniformly thick, because apple butter would normally be a bit thicker than this, but it just means that there's a bit of extra water in it. So we'll just have to cook the little bit of extra juice rather than water per se. So we might have to cook the sauce a little bit longer to get it to that thicker consistency. It is thick, but probably not as thick as a lot of people like their apple butter. So anyway, I just wanted to add that in. So I've underestimated the quantity. I'm going to need the bigger pot because I still have to add vinegar and tomato and stuff to this. But I've just gone to grab the bigger pot and it's dirty. So I'm just giving that a wash, and then I'm going to have to transfer this into that pot. And then we need 3 jars of passata, and we're going to have about 3 3/4 cups of apple cider vinegar, so probably around about 1 litre of that, as well as some garlic powder and molasses and all that sort of stuff. So, I just made a mess. So yeah, I'm going to need the other pot. This isn't going to fit in otherwise. Right, we've got it in the bigger pot. Now, I need to put the passata in. So we've got 3 jars of passata. And then I'm going to put the litre of apple cider vinegar. So I'm going to pour that litre of apple cider vinegar in these 3 passata jars so that I can get every little bit of passata out of them. Alright, so we're going to litre apple cider vinegar. You can use whatever vinegar you like. I like using apple cider. And I'm just going to split it. So what we want is like 3 3/4 cups ish is the half a thing, and a litre is approximately 4 cups. So we're just going to err on the side of a whole jar. And we'll bump sweetness if we have to, but it just saves me leaving like 1/4 cup in a jar. So let's get you up a bit higher. There we go. Now we want about 1/4 cup of molasses. About that of molasses. I'm just going to add that in because the next thing we're going to do is about 2.5, because we're halving this, cups of sugar. Now, the original recipe for this had a large quantity of sugar. This is my notes from the previous batch that I made, like massive amounts of sugar. We do not do anything that sweet. We just don't need to. We're used to having what we've got. So the 5 cups for all of this worked for us with the 40 cups. So we've got 20 cups, so I'm going to do 2.5 cups of sugar. And I've actually got the coconut sugar here, so I might use that because that'll give it that nice caramelly flavour in there as well. Alright, so we've got about 2.5 cups of coconut sugar in there. We're going to add some salt. Probably a couple of tablespoons. That's only 1. Oh look, I've got 2 salt jars and both of them have salt in them. I'm just going to dump both of those in there. A couple of tablespoons of salt, and we're going to add some liquid smoke, about a tablespoon worth. You don't want to overdo liquid smoke. I'm actually going to, it wasn't in my recipe before, but I'm actually going to add some of my Worcestershire in here too. Say 2 tablespoons worth of Worcestershire in there. And then smoked paprika, which I have not managed to get into a jar yet. So this will be the reason to do it. And we're going to do 2 heaped tablespoons of that. What else will I add in there? Some garlic powder. Again, under the new spice orders that I haven't got in jars yet. And we're going to do, again, the same, sort of 2 heaped tablespoons of garlic. And I want to put a bit of cracked pepper in here. We're going to give this a go. So I'm going to get this heated up and then I'll taste it and see how I go. But that's based on my notes from last time. So hopefully it tastes exactly how I remember it, and which is really, really tasty. So apple butter barbecue, the pork, Plum BBQ is currently still simmering. The other thing that I need to can from on my shelf is I found a bunch of jars of stewed plums. So the reason we had the Plum BBQ was because at some point I ended up getting like 100 and something kilos worth of plums free, I think, through the hamper. And so I did a lot of plum based stuff. I did an Asian plum stir fry sauce, which I have some jars of still. I did Plum BBQ. I did a whole bunch of things. But what I ended up doing with some of it was just stewing the plums and sticking them straight in jars because I just needed them shelf stable. I froze a bunch. The kids ate them frozen. But stewing them and putting them in jars was the way to go, a bit like what I did with the apple butter. So I did notice that I've got quite a few jars of just stewed plums on the shelf, and I've tried putting them in crumbles and things like that, and the kids just really don't like them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them into another batch of Worcestershire sauce. So I still have a couple of jars of the most recent batch, but it's lasts on the shelf forever. So I bought extra malt vinegar and stuff so that I could make another batch of Worcestershire sauce. So that's the other jars that I'm going to get off the shelf and recanned into something that we'll use. But not today. Not today. So we're just going to get this on. I'm going to get this simmering, leave the Plum BBQ simmering, which is already reduced probably 1.5 centimeters, and go back to cleaning my shelves while that's doing it. That was the plan, was to get this on the stove, and then I can just go back to cleaning my shelves. I do need to put these spices in jars too at some point, but we'll get there. All right, so it is 5:05. I've still got shelves that are spread out all over the ground over there. All the Tupperware's put back in the cupboard at least, but the glassware and stuff is still work in progress. So I'm still going. My sauces have all started reducing though, and they're doing quite well. So if you have a look, this one has reduced quite a bit, and if you see the plum here has reduced quite a bit down the sides of the pot. So I think what I'm going to do is just keep going for the moment. I've thrown chicken tenders in the oven for dinner because the place is a mess and I'm doing all this. So I've got chicken tenders in the oven. I'll do some mashed potato or something to go with it, whatever they want with it, some veggies and stuff. I'm just going to let these keep simmering probably for another hour and a half. By the time we've done baths and things like that, just let it go, and then I'm probably just going to stick the lids on them and sort them tomorrow. It's going to give me the opportunity to see the thickness of it when it's cool too, because part of the problem with canning it hot, which is you're supposed to can it hot, you're supposed to heat it, put it in the jars hot, can it hot, but the problem with that is that you can't actually tell the texture of the sauce because you're canning it hot. Whereas if I put the lids on these, we're getting below 0 every night at the moment, so it's plenty cold enough to just put the lids on them and leave them on the stove top, come out first thing in the morning before it gets above 4, and then either bring them back up to temperature before canning them, or cooking them down a little bit more if they need it, or I could just can them cold. It is fine, just takes longer because the jars have to heat up when you're canning them and stuff too, but it is totally doable. It is easier to pour it when it's hot because it's thinner, but I will assess it in the morning anyway. I need to wash all the jars up, but I actually need to check if I've got enough rings to reuse those jars, or if I have to use some ball mason jars with flat lids. I'm going to have to look at that. But anyway, they've been simmering all afternoon. We're getting there, not quite where I want them yet, so I'm just going to let them go for another hour while I finish dinner up and get everyone bathed and stuff and fire started and things like that. And so no video for the morning, but I will keep going, and I've got the meat delivery tomorrow and stuff too, so it'll just be a longer one to come out Saturday morning. So anyway, that's where I'm leaving it for today. All right, it is Friday morning, so I've got both these sauces ready to go. I'm just washing all the jars that we used that they were already in, washing them so that I can decant the sauce back into those ones. Sonnet made pancake bake, chocolate chip fruit pancake bake. I'm having a piece as well. It is a regular thing that we make here. Mum was supposed to come today. We'll see if she's coming. She rang me and said she's not feeling well, so we'll see how she goes. But if she doesn't turn up today, what I'm going to try and do tonight or this afternoon, because she's not here, is try and get this recipe up on the website, because we're making it every day. It works perfectly and it's really, really good. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just washing the jars. So the same jars that we had, I'm just giving them a good clean. I gave them a rinse, and then I've washed them in some hot water. Don't need to sterilize them because they're going to be canned. And I'm going to try and get these sorted. Now, my buffalo canner isn't working fantastically well at the moment because one of the seals for the piece that pops up when it goes under pressure. The rubber seal underneath that has a crack in it, so it's not popping up properly. I've ordered a new one. It cost me $25, which is fine, but it's in transit at the moment. The Presto's working fine though, but I would normally use the pressure canners as steam canners, which I can't do if the steam isn't working appropriately, but we'll see how we go. I think these fit in my steam canner. The Patada jars don't, but I think the 27s do. We'll have to see how we go. I've only got 17 size 3 seals left. That's it. So I'm going to use up to 17 of these jars, and then we'll see how we go from there. I'm going to put an order in online. You can buy Fowler's rings. They're $6.20 for a dozen, but the shipping is $20 odd from Fowler's. So I always wait until I pretty much run out, and then I order like a dozen packs of each size that I use. So we're at that point. So I'm going to do that this afternoon as well. But in the meantime, I'll use what I've got. I also might, just before I start decanting all this, I might mix up some brioche dough to make some little buns for dinner tonight. I'm not entirely sure what we're eating. I'm getting the meat order today, so I'm waiting on that to see if anything in that is not frozen, so we can use that with dinner. Otherwise, I'm not sure yet, but I think I might make some buns just so that we've got them to have with dinner, depending on what I've got. So I might throw that dough together first before I start loading all my jars on the bench. It's like 11:30 and I feel like nothing has been accomplished yet this morning. It has just been... Anyway, so let's get this dough mixed up so that it proofs before I need to use it. I've just warmed up some water in the kettle. I bought a brand new kettle because my other one, the handle broke. Bought 2 brand new kettles. I got them on sale, but they're still like, it was a $100 kettle and it's already broken. Driving me nuts. The amount of kettles I've bought over the years that just... Anyway, 720 mils of warm water. And then we're going to add some coconut cream to it. Add some fat to the dough. About the 180, bring it up to the 900 mils. Just using the end of one of the ones in the fridge rather than opening a tin. So I might have to add a little bit of extra water just to bring this up. I make these all the time on here, recipes on the website. So just doing all the normal. Sugar in to help with the proofing of the dough, but also with the slightly sweet flavor. Some salt, which Salt Pig's empty. Shock horror, 20 odd grams of salt, and 150 grams of oil or ghee or something. Again, my ghee is almost solid. My olive oil is sort of semi-solid. So it's still easier to use this at the moment. And then we just want sort of 1,200, 1,300 grams of flour. As I said, the recipe's on my website. So I'm going to add flour. I'm going to get this mixed up and put aside to proof. All right, as per usual, the dough is a little bit sloppy, which is normal for brioche dough and because I used warm water. But it's tolerable for me, so I'm just going to go with it. Just going to put it in one of my Canberra containers and let it double. And then I'll get these jars sorted is the next step of many for today. But yes, that's sorted. This is put aside. Jars. Right, let's start with the Plum BBQ. I found a few jars that still have Plum BBQ written on them. So we're going to start with that. I've got it here. It's a much better consistency. I'll show you in a sec. We had a funnel. Let's get started on this one. I haven't reheated it. It is cold. Pros and cons to that, but it's what I'm going to do. It just means I need to start my canners from cold and everything else. But let's see if you can... Much thicker consistency. So that will be superb for using. Now I could puree this a little bit. Again, it is a little chunky, but I'm really not that concerned. So all I'm going to do is fill these jars, however many I get out of it, making a mess as I go, because that's what I'm good at. Spreading it everywhere seriously. Bring it just up to halfway up the neck of the jar, because we're only going to gently can it, and then keep going. So I can't remember how many jars it was initially, 6 I think, so probably only get 4 to 5 out of it, maybe 4 solid jars and some extra to go in the fridge. And then I'll move on to the apple butter barbecue. And we'll get these all sorted because they're all canned for the same amount of time, so that will work. Spatula for the last bit, but as I said, I don't think I'll get full jars out of it anyway. Might get a 4th. Alright, so we've got not quite full jar that's going to go in the fridge, and 3 full ones of the plum. Now that it's been reduced and thickened up, let me do a bit of a clean. Right, spatula, ladle, funnel, everything cleaned up, and now we've got the apple butter. So let me angle you so you can see that. Oh, see that texture going in, and again we've got this. It's a little bit thinner than the plum, but still lovely and thick. So we're just going to do the same thing. Fill a bunch of jars up. Bigger ladle would be handy here. And get these sorted as well. So I'll bring you back once I've got all the jars full. Alrighty, so I've got 12 jars of apple butter. They're all full enough to process all of them, which is nice. So this one here that of the plum that's not quite full enough to process, I'm just going to put, this is a ring off the jars that I just opened. So it's a second-hand ring, which a bit like flats for ball mason jars. You can reuse them if you want. It's entirely up to you. They don't recommend it, like the flats on a ball mason jar. You need to be careful when you're storing them. You need to be careful when you're removing them. Things like that to make sure they're not damaged, like the flat ones on a ball mason. Now, in my environment, reusing them is not necessarily suitable. I don't know if you can see on the camera. I'll have to check when I'm showing it, when I'm editing. But it's cracked all the way around. It's got little cracks all the way around. And a lot of that is the temperature changes, the dust, the dirt, and everything else of how my jars are stored. So not ideal for me to reuse them. This is just going in the fridge, however. And I have some Fowler's snap-on lids, reusable lids, that just go on the jars. But you have to have a ring on them for it to actually seal properly. So it snaps on just like that for fridge storage or whatever. This seal is bent around. It doesn't matter. It just, if you don't put a seal on it, then when you snap this on, it doesn't, like, it'll just fall off if the jar gets knocked or anything, whereas that will keep it somewhat sealed, somewhat. So yes, the plastic lid on that one to go in the fridge, and the rest of these we're going to set up for canning. So I just need to get some vinegar to wipe the rims with. So I was pretty careful with these rims, but it just doesn't seem to matter. You still end up getting some on there. So we've just got some white vinegar, cleaning the rims, placing a ring on, and then we have the lids that I cleaned as well, clips. Now we aren't pressure canning these, we're only water bath canning them, so generally speaking I can get away with a single lid, a single clip. If I'm pressure canning, I always use 2 clips. People will disagree with that. Fowler's doesn't suggest 2 clips, but they also don't suggest pressure canning. So, you know, but I find that if I pressure can with a single clip, then I get too many jars that fail. So when I pressure can, I use 2 clips. Water bath can, I use 1. You want to make sure you get it nice and square so that the lid seals evenly as well, which I think is part of the problem with pressure canning. With only 1, it's just too much pressure and the lids can get skewed because it's only being held by those 2 points, unlike with a ball mason jar where it's got a point of pressure all the way around. If it's only got those 2 points and it skews slightly, then you don't get a good seal on your jar. So all we're doing is I'm going to do this for all these jars, and then I'm going to get my canners ready. I'm going to clean up these pots and stuff first. And these have all just been washed in warm soapy water along with the jars. My clips look horrible because of they go in water and then they get stored. They get dried but just stored in a container. But they still function the same, and if I wanted to clean them I could, but that's an awful lot of effort for something that doesn't come into contact with the food at all. It sits on the outside of the jars. So, and I have two different size clips in here. The ones for these jars, which are 3s, and the ones for the larger jars, which are 4s. But I also have, because I buy all my Fowler stuff secondhand, I also have some myriads of clips and stuff that are for things like glass lids, which have a slightly higher fall on them, and they're slightly stretchier, which again is partly why I use 2 clips when pressure canning, because some of these clips are slightly different sizes or don't hold as well as others and things like that. So anyway, personal preference. Gonna get these all sorted. I don't remember what the canning time is on these, maybe 25. I'll have to look it up, find my notes and see. So I'll bring you back. Alrighty, we've got cold canners, cold water. There's about 4 quarts of water in the bottom because we're going to use our pressure canners as steam canners. So we want to make sure there's enough water in there to create a steady stream of steam for 25 minutes because it's a barbecue sauce. So once it starts steaming steadily, like when you normally do the 10 minutes of steam, you want a nice steady stream of steam. We'll do our 10 minutes. And so we've got 8 in the big canner and 7 in the smaller canner, the Presto and the Buffalo. It should be fine to use this for steam canning, even with that thing broken, because we're wanting the steam to release. We're not wanting to hold it because we're not putting it under pressure. These jars don't fit very well in the steam canner, but also, even though the steam canner is quick for a small batch, like if I was just doing half a dozen jars, that's great. But if I'm doing more, then by having to double batch it, like cool it down and everything in between, it ends up taking longer. So it's quicker to do it in these two if I can. So we've got a load in the Presto, a load in the Buffalo, 25 minutes canning time, a water bath. So you could cover them with water, which I hate doing because of the amount of water usage. You can then use the water in your garden and stuff, but I've got to lug the whole pot all the way out to my garden. Or steam canning in the pressure canner, which is what we're going to do. We're going to steam can them in the pressure canners, which is the same overall end result as water bath canning. Alrighty, so we've got steady stream of steam and the safety valve has popped up, which means that there's no air left in it, there's only steam in the cavity, and we're going to do 25 minutes. And the other one has done the same thing. I had to assist the seal to stay up a little bit, but based on timing of the other one as well, I'm happy with that. So 25 minutes and then we'll turn them off. Alrighty, and our bulk meat delivery just turned up. Angie picked it up for me because Daryl's away, so I don't have a car. So we got one thing that was missed. They weren't in stock and they didn't give me a bell to say if I wanted to replace it with anything, so we'll have to top that up, and that was chicken thighs. But we got a whole box of rump. So all these different pieces of rump. I'll check the receipt and I'll put the price per kilo on the bottom of the video because I don't have it on me. They had an end of financial year sale, so a lot of things were discounted. It's still meat, it still costs money, it's still not the cheapest thing in the world, but by buying some cheaper stuff and the more expensive stuff, I feel like we hit a happy medium. It ended up costing like $10 or $11 per kilo across everything because I bought some really cheap stuff as well as some more expensive stuff. So we have rump. This is just a 3-star rump because all I'm going to use it for is jerky, stir fry, all that sort of thing. So we only needed lower quality rump. I split a box of muscle meat, gravy beef with Angie. So we got a few packets each of the gravy beef. We'll use this for canning, for meat pies, for stews, anything that's slow cooked. I got 2 boxes of the drumettes. So hard to see because they're frozen in packs of like, I don't know, it's 15 kilos, so 5 kilo packs, 5 kilos of drumettes. I'm not even actually sure whether they're leg drumettes or wing drumettes because it didn't say, and I don't really care, and it's frozen. But I'm going to put a bag of these straight in the fridge to defrost and we'll use that. So I ended up buying 2 boxes of those, 3 5 kilo boxes each, and I think these ones were $2.20 per kilo, so super cheap for drumsticks. And I love drumsticks, and then we get all these bones to use for stock as well. I got a box of the tenderloins because I've been really enjoying using these in like satay marinades, or for putting in the potato starch and frying and things like that. So I got a box of the tenderloins. I think it was, the boxes are random as in they're 4 to 6 2 to 3 kilo bags or whatever, so it was whatever ended up being there, and I think they were $7.20 a kilo, but as I said, I'll put the pricing down. I got 2 boxes of wings as well, so these are those 3-piece wings that I've been using over the last few weeks, and they're in 2 kilo bags, and I bought 2 12 kilo boxes of those, and these were like $1.99 a kilo, so super cheap. And again, we really love the wings done, and the bones go into stock. I got a box. This was definitely a bit of a treat. This was definitely a bit of a treat. They had lamb square cut racks. So these nice lamb cutlet racks, square cut. Each one is a kilo. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 8-ish cutlets per rack. Nice big cap of fat, and these were $25 a kilo, which is really cheap for lamb racks, but it was a 13 kilo box, so it ended up being a bit of a splurge because I had to buy 13 kilos of it, but these are going to be amazing. So we have those vacuum sealed up. They're not frozen, so some feel firmer than others, so I'll freeze some and I will put some directly in the fridge. And then the other thing we did that was more expensive than I'd like, but you know, it is part of why we do these bulk meat orders, so that we can spread the cost out, is bought some steak. So I went for the best quality for the best pricing sort of thing. So part of the sale that they had on, they had this 6-star, so really well marbled porterhouse, New York strip, whatever you want to call it, that was $28 a kilo, which is an amazing price, and it is the black Coorong black farm ones, and it just, yeah, it looks amazing. We're going to really enjoy that one, and because we buy it like this in this vacuum sealed bags and that, and our fridges run colder than the standard fridge, on the thing you'll look here, it's got a expiry date of the 30th of August. So in this vacuum seal, it will last until the 30th of August, even if we don't freeze it. Though I may slice some up and freeze it as well. Slice it up into portions, use the chamber vacuum sealer and vacuum seal it up and stick it in the freezer so that it can be pulled out later on. But I'm not entirely sure how long all of this will last. We're still working on how long the meat orders are, and I did order a 20 kilo box of chicken thighs as well that hasn't turned up. So I either have to get that from there at a later date, or I'll have to buy more thighs at Costco on the next shopping trip. We do have a couple of trays left in the freezer though. I will probably rearrange things a little bit, but at the moment we've got the rump and the gravy beef along the bottom, steak sitting there, a couple of the lambs left out for probably Monday night when Darryl gets home, and we've got chicken left to defrost. So inside a bag we've got some drums, some wings, and the tenderloins all to defrost, and they'll be used over the next week as they defrost. I will probably, as they soften up a little bit, I like to put it in bowls or in containers, just so that if there's any juices that leak through, then they don't leak on everything else. So I'll probably do that, but I need to eat through some of this broccoli that's left. We got some zucchini and carrots. There's some carrots underneath there as well, and we have a bunch of cabbages still to eat through too. So I need to get through some of that fresh stuff this week with this new meat. That'll be easy to do. And then I've loaded up the new freezer. Everything's just in here in boxes for the moment, nice and easy. And I'll sort stuff out as I get to it. I still haven't rearranged the other freezer yet, so in the end I'll want some space between the two of them that I split, like fruit to meat and things like that. But for the moment I've just thrown everything into the freezer, and I don't like having too many boxes in the freezer either, but for the moment this is what we're doing. And now I've got to go and do those bread rolls, which are well and truly proofed. Right, timing wise now, I'm just skewed. I got a little bit of molasses on my board, which isn't going to make any difference. But anyway, this dough is well and truly proofed. I didn't want to start shaping the rolls until after the meat was delivered. And there was some delays with the driver, and anyway. It's probably a little overproofed, and it's going to be a little challenging to handle, I imagine, but we will make it work. and my kids aren't fussing. So I'm going to get it all out to start with, and then we'll see what we're working with. Get it shaped into rolls and baked off. I may end up just cutting up some of that really nice looking steak for dinner, and they can have, I might steam some the little potatoes, and I can do some smashed potatoes and steak, and they can have rolls, and I think that might just be nice and simple. It's not as bad as I feared, so just had to flour it a little bit more than I would normally like, because we're reducing the hydration of the dough by adding more flour, but we also want to be able to work it. So all right, so all I'm going to do is do the same thing I normally do, 50-gram balls on a baking tray. The kids are having some free time while I do this. I don't think I need to do wood today. I should be able to get away with doing that tomorrow. So the kids are getting some free time at the moment while I finish these off, and then I'll probably make myself another coffee and sit down, and then we will just go from there. So we're just going 50 to 60 grams. I'm not going to be too pedantic because this dough is a little sticky. Don't want to handle it too much. So we're just going to do that. Now I just need a baking tray, and that's all I'm going to do. Ordered myself new scales. I think I've mentioned that these ones have a broken foot, but they also are kind of hard if you like, because the glass on top's a bit dirty at the moment, and I just don't want to wash it right this minute. And but they're not weighing fantastically well at the moment. So I feel like that is well oversized. See, it's 110 grams. It's almost twice the size of what I'm looking for. But I don't know that that's particularly accurate either. But anyway, I've ordered new scales. There was a set of the OXO scales that have the slide out display, so that you can pull, if you've got something bigger on top, you can pull the display out, which I thought would be really handy. So they were half price, still expensive, but half price. So I grabbed a set of those. I bought everyone new pillows and the Harris scarf. I try and buy new pillows every 12 to 24 months for everyone, and they had half price at Harris scarf. So I ordered some pillows and the scales at the same time. But anyway, squirreling even on a non-squirrel day. I'm going to get these done. I will, I think I'm just going to cut up some of that steak for dinner. So I'll bring you back when I'm doing that. And I'll show you the rolls, and I'm going to put some of those baby potatoes in a steaming pot like I've done before. Maybe I'll pull some pesto out to defrost, because the pesto drizzled over the potatoes was really nice. I'll bring you along when I do it. Just going to finish the rolls. Pot of potatoes, like 20 odd potatoes there, and these are just almost finished their second proofing. My mic battery is running low, so I'm gonna go charge it. But so bread rolls, potatoes going on. Won't come back now until I'm ready to. I might come back when I smash these, but yeah, that's gonna be simple dinner. Jars need to come out. I'll do all that, but for the moment I'm gonna go have coffee. Alrighty, rolls are done. I just left them in the oven while I was getting other stuff done. Now I'm going to smash the potatoes. Alright, so potatoes, all I do is put them on the tray and then gently squish them. And then I'm going to drizzle them with a bit of oil and salt and throw them in a nice hot oven. And then we get nice fluffy but crispy potatoes. And I'm just going to drizzle it with a bit of oil to help with the crispy. I'm going to grab some flaked salt out, a little bit of smoked salt to go in there as well, and then we're going to put it in the oven. So we're just going to have some of this gorgeous steak tonight. I cut the kids fairly thin because they like it a bit better done than I do. Darryl and I both like it medium rare, so I do it a little bit thicker for me, a little bit thinner for the kids, but they enjoy it as well. And then, as I said, we've got rolls, smashed potatoes. I might cook up some broccoli because we've got some broccoli that needs using. We will see. But I'm going to cut this up so that it can come to room temperature for a little bit while the potatoes are cooking and we're getting the animals fed and things like that. So gorgeous piece of steak, fair bit of fat. We like a fair bit of fat, but so I'm going to cut these up for the kids. All right, potatoes are mostly done. I defrosted some of the spinach pesto and in a Ziploc bag so that I could just take the tip off it, and I'm going to just drizzle some. It's still semi-frozen, which is why I'm doing it like this, and then I'm going to put it back in the oven just to heat the pesto. It'd be better if it was a bit thinner. For this purpose, it's not going to look as nice as it could. I might just spread it out a little bit. The finer drizzles would look better, but it's just a little too solid still to do that. So I'm just going to do that, and then I will just move it around on all the potatoes so it's not quite as effective to look at, but it's going to be tasty. And we're all about easy and simple and tasty rather than aesthetics. I'm just going to drizzle it with just a touch of olive oil just for that, and stick it back in the oven for 10 minutes while I get everything else done. Alrighty, so we've got steak, bit of butter, some potato with pesto, the broccoli that has been grilled, and a perfect pull apart dinner roll as well. So definitely not a low carb meal, but a tasty one. And that's it from me. So I've cooked all the steaks, I've put the tray of potatoes and everything out for the kids to have, so they can get it all serve themselves from the table, and I'm going to go off and eat it, and then that's it for today. So I will see you on the next one, guys.